joining us now to discuss, Republican Senator Dan Sullivan of Alaska. Senator, let's start with what we heard from Prime Minister Netanyahu when I asked him about his long-term plans for the day after. Yeah. Is Israel going to occupy Gaza, whether militarily or with a civilian government? This is what he had to say. You're taking off the table on Israeli occupation.
If you mean resettling Gaza, yeah, it was never in the cards, and I said so openly, and some of my constituents are not happy about it, but that's my position. I would do is have a reconstruction of Gaza, if possible, done by the moderate Arab states and the international community.
He says that he wants Gaza to be run by Gazans, and he wants Gaza to be there to be a reconstruction by Arab states and the international community. Yeah. I mean, I want to be 25 again. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, it's very easy to say such a thing, but how does it happen?
Well, look, I think his point on the moderate Arab states is a really important one, right? Right now, as you probably know, Jake, they have not stepped up in terms of economic assistance. Traditionally, the United States has been the largest supplier of economic assistance before October 7th. But I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, right? We need to continue to enable Israel to destroy Hamas. Nothing matters beyond that initial objective. We also need to work with them to make sure that innocent lives are spared and we limit the number of casualties in Gaza, in the West Bank.
Do you think they're doing everything they can to limit the number of casualties? Because it doesn't sound like the Biden administration does.
Well, look, you asked an important question. You asked a pointed question. As you know, what we call in the military, military operations in urban terrain are the most dangerous. They're the most bloody. They're the most difficult, particularly when your main enemy uses civilians as shields. So it's a difficult situation. But remember, Israel, the IDF does not target civilians the way Hamas does, and this is why the ICC, action just yesterday was so outrageous. The moral equivalency, what they did in terms of equating Israeli actions with Hamas actions, is an outrage, as you're probably seeing here in Washington, D.C., whether it's the president, Blinken, Chuck Schumer, or many Republican senators like myself. We're all calling this outrageous and, dangerous and reprehensible.
So let me ask you, because you are a veteran, do you think Israel is doing taking the same care that American service members take when engaged in urban warfare? And the reason I ask is because, first of all, the direct terrorist attack by Hamas on 1,200 innocent Israelis, the continued hostage taking. Yeah. It's not, these people are Israeli soldiers. They're not robots. I mean, they're human beings. Yeah. I could certainly understand anger and rage. It's a little different than the United States fighting in Iraq or Afghanistan. There's a little bit more distance from the victims of 9/11, for example. Do you think that there is the same kind of care and precision, the same kind of equation made when it comes to rules of engagement in terms of the risk when you're going after Hamas and the level of the Hamas fighter?
Well, look, you're raising a really important question. I think went to Israel right after the October 7th attacks with a bipartisan codel of U.S. senators. Very important, because the sense of the existential threat that country faces, our most important ally in the Middle East, is so palpable when you're there. And a lot of Americans who are criticizing Israel, I think, don't understand that. We, in a meeting with the Prime Minister and the Defense Minister, they said, imagine 9/11 happening, but the terrorists weren't in Afghanistan. They were about 20 miles away, still strong and ready to attack again.
The government of the country next door and the military of the country next door.
Exactly. So, but to your question, we've had a lot of American military experts. David Petraeus, I know, was recently on your program, one of our top experts at the, I think it was the West Point Center for Counterterrorism. They are saying that the Israelis have done an incredible job. Now, it's not without civilian casualties, as the Prime Minister said. Nobody wants civilian casualties. Any innocent civilian is a horrible tragedy. But again, this is an existential threat to Israel, and they are trying to do their best in terms of limiting casualties. But you have an urban terrain setting, you have tunnels, hundreds of miles of tunnels,
Yeah.
and you have an enemy that's ruthless and has no problem actually using civilians as shields, and in some ways doesn't mind seeing the civilian casualty rate going up because it plays into their strategy.
Senator Sullivan, it's always good to see you.
Great to
Thank
see
you
you,
so
Jay.
much,
Okay.
sir.